Yeah, roll it.
Ready. No feminine energy in here.
And we are live. Welcome back to the New Earth Project live show. Tonight, we're going to be talking about returning back to the inner child, healing the inner child, connecting and nurturing with that inner child. And tonight, joining me, we have Jake Lowe and Studio Rome. And be sure to check out our other social medias down in the description down below. And also be sure to check out our new Come As You Are podcast, where our very own Studio Rome go ahead and interviews other conscious creators throughout the conscious community. And let's get right into it. So the inner child, what exactly is the inner child? It's you in your childlike form that is authentically it's completely authentically expressing itself. So our inner child makes up part of our like a large majority of our personality, since our memories and habits and things that happen to us and that we experience in our inner as a child are stored into our subconscious. And as we know, we like, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not sure on the percentage, but I'm pretty sure like 95% of our life comes from the subconscious. And so all of those habits and all those things that we picked up on as a child and everything that's happened to us is all stored within our subconscious mind that is projecting out and creating our reality. So this also, not only does this include all the good things that we experienced as a child and all those happy memories that we have, but it also includes all the traumas and wounds that we experienced when we were young that that come to the surface all the time within our day-to-day life. And those things need to be let go of and healed, so we can live our authentic and true selves. And so how do we connect with and nurture this inner child? And all of, like, the best way that I've come across to, like, the nurture and connect with this inner child is to connect with our heart and move into our heart space. As this is when you're a child, you completely operate out of your heart space, and you're so giving and so loving, and you operate out of that main chakra point. And so some things that, like, to help nurture that inner child and reconnect with that, to kind of like ease into it, getting into the, and then slowly moving into the healing aspect of it. So nurturing and reconnecting with that inner child. So think of some things that you used to do as a kid, some activities that you used to do, like say you played with Legos, or maybe you like to climb trees or something like that, and embodying that childlike spirit that you once had, and slowly began to get culturally conditioned, and you lost that kindred spirit within you. And so what do you guys like to do, like, what to help nurture that inner child, like, that really brings out that play, like, that feeling, you guys?
For me, I would say just getting back to like my roots and like what I like to do. So I'm a hockey player. I played hockey my whole life. Recently graduated from high school, and it's honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it's very weird not playing a sport. Like it's something very new to me, and so to accommodate that, like that feeling of not like growing older or whatever, and like returning to my child or inner child, essentially would be to go out and with a couple of my buddies and just like play, just play, just have fun with it, and just enjoy playing together and enjoying the game, essentially. Well, my game is hockey. I think I already established that. Throwing that back in there. Rome?
Well, I see, connecting with your inner child. Let's just talk about that for right now. It's very hard being a person. And when you grow older, you get more responsibilities, and you get more further and further detached from these energies and from this vibration that you had when you were a child. When you were a child, you didn't have much responsibilities. You didn't have much as far as like earning to do. All your focus was exploring and learning and creating and having fun. So, and the learning part you know, of course you had guidance through, hopefully through parents and family and friends and such, but when you get past that point, when you get detached from the inner child, your energy level changes. Sonny mentioned it before. You're out of a different chakra area. Your vibration has changed completely. So, like Jake was saying, following things that you used to do when you were a kid, or enjoying that's just that feeling, that energy that you had when you were a kid, where you had just like carefree and you felt warm and protected and loved, and you just were energetic. That's what you're trying to get back to. So for me to reconnect to that has always been, like you said, going to heart center, going to center itself, and escaping from the thought processes of an adult, or thought process that you are programmed to have. And for me, Jake, I mean, I like going doing the hockey thing, but I think we think about going back further than that. When you were a child, right? Not too many people can remember an age past like 7 or 6 years old. There's some that can, but most of us, for most humans, we don't have many memories or very vivid understanding of those times. But it's funny that those are the fundamental years, you know, as you grow into your 5, 6, and 7, those are five fundamental years of your learning, your and building your character that you build. So it's fascinating to me how you don't have much memory of it, but that is just the part that's so important. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, why do you think it's important to connect with that inner child?
Well, when you were a child, before you had all these programmings and thoughts and expectations of life and all these lessons and hardships, a childhood, hopefully for most people, a childhood is very happy and comforting, and you feel protected, right? And it should be a place of a very love-centered area. So returning back to that is giving yourself a chance to escape the reality, to be mindful of the pureness of love, the connection with that. And if you can give yourself time to do that on a regular basis, you're going to be a lot more centered for sure. You're going to see things in a different perspective. I mean, Sonny, don't you think so?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. And it returns us back, like the emotion that I'll experience a lot is when connecting with that inner child and finding that center again is bliss or ecstasy or nirvana. We're in that constant state whenever we're a child.
Yeah,
And
when was the last time you watched a video of a child laughing?
well,
I
I don't
I
even
just
know.
I over on the TikTok
No.
channel, I was goofing around and I duetted one. So it's just some kid with a flashlight and a cat's chasing the flashlight. And the kid is a little toddler, I'm like 2-year-old, and he's laughing and laughing, just a stare. Look, we're all smiling thinking about his laughter and his love. And you watch these videos because it's just so pure, right? It's just pure
Yes.
love and pure enjoyment. You watch them do this thing. So that's, really, that's what we're trying to really connect to, I think.
Yeah, that 100% reconnecting with that emotion and experiencing that emotion again. Because whenever we were a child, we lived with that. That was us. That was literally our entire being, was that emotion of bliss and ecstasy. And reconnecting with that and experiencing that emotion, it has such a profound impact on people. Like you just said, whenever you were watching and watching that baby, just like being pure bliss, it made you smile. and
Yeah.
and whenever you're experiencing that, you're gonna have the same effect as that kid has as an adult. Other people around you are gonna just
Well,
like,
that's
they're gonna
that.
love to be around you.
Yeah, exactly, Sonny. That's that sharing of that energy, that frequency. Just watching that kid, that vibration of him having so much love and so much happiness. like when I was just describing it, you saw, both of you, even Jake, we all started smiling because we're just thinking about that kid's
Yeah.
energy, right? I mean, how do you not love to see someone so happy and bliss? So, Jake talked about it before. When he plays hockey, that's a spot where he remembers, right? Where he was in his own zone, he was in a flow as a child, and he was enjoying the moment of being just there. So if you have that spot where you can take yourself back, some people have memories of childhood, of younger childhood with a parent or sibling maybe, or maybe with an animal, a cat or a puppy, that brings them back to that happy free frequency. And that's what we're looking for, really.
I just wanted to add on there, like your childhood is like literally like the building blocks. It's like the foundation of your house, essentially. It's like the foundation of you as a person. So if you say whenever you're a child, okay, we'll start here. You're a child, and then you start to slowly move along in life. Those programs that is programmed into you, whether that be good or bad, mainly it's usually bad. That like returning to your inner child when you were just so harmonious. It was beautiful, peaceful, no responsibility, just pure like love and pure bliss. That's kind of like what we're striving for whenever we are returning to our inner child, is to rid of those programs, of those like the programs that try to control the way you think, control the way you eat, control the way you act, like all of that. Like you just want to return back to that state of just happiness and just enjoying life. Like that is what you're meant to do on earth, is to just enjoy your life and really like live. Don't just exist, but actually live it and feel those emotions and feel that love vibration and whatnot.
Yeah, those early memories. You think of the earliest memory that you have as a child, the earliest one you can remember.
Um, I'd say for me, it was probably I just remember being in, like, it was a very vivid. It was I was in my grandma's bathtub, like taking a bath. It was like a red bathtub. That's like
You
the
go.
main. That's like the only reason I remember is because it was red.
Okay.
Like
How about you, Sonny?
it's a hard question.
Probably. So I don't even. Oh, was my. Hmm, I don't even. I think my brother was like just born, and I think he's about 18 months younger than me. And yeah, it was around the time where he was just born, and I remember being on like the ground, like in my room that I'm in right now, with my mom, and we were just like playing in my room, like, and I remember the sun like setting, like like it was sunset, and you could see the sunset through the window in my room, and I just remember like looking out and seeing the sunset, and there were like blankets all over the floor, like we were just playing.
Yeah, mine, I think it probably was 4 years old, maybe, playing on the ground in my parents' house with one of those, old plastic, stacking tools. You got different color rings. Dad coming in showing me how to do it right.
Pretty
The reason why I asked you to recall this moment is because it's suggested that these are the first moments that we become, that you become you. Okay, before those moments, before all those, you were something else. You were I. You came into the
Mhm.
into the world something else. You came into this body, and all you knew was just like visions and sights and sounds, and you didn't really have good vision. And then all you really knew was these people that were around you, that were entities taking care of you. You didn't really know anything. That was all it was all. But the first memories that you have as a child, that's when you start developing you. And from that point on, any programming, any insert that comes into your life from your parents, from your siblings, from your friends, from experiences that you have, some can be happy, like Jake said, some can be, traumatic and very bad. You gather those things in those younger years as well. So sometimes going back to your childhood is not only to find that loving, fun frequency, but is to go back to heal that young individual that's been carrying all them, them bad programmings, and to heal the one that has the trauma or has experienced something that they shouldn't have at a young age, really undeveloped to understand it And now that you're older, to be able to go back and reflect back into those, you're setting yourself apart from the you and the I. You're starting to see things from a different perspective because they have the ability to go back and understand those lessons and understand that you're carrying those through your whole life. And then now to come to be mindful to change it, that's another reason to go back and nurture and love the young child of yours.
Yeah, I think healing your inner child is extremely, extremely, extremely important because
Oh yeah.
you said you like, as you grow older, say you're a child and you have an abusive father or whatever your situation is, and it's not a good situation, you will carry those programs on with you for the rest of your life until you decide to heal
Yeah.
from that, move on from that. Healing your inner child is one of the most vital things that you could do. Like literally, if you had a traumatic childhood.
Well, there's
Yeah,
so many times that
otherwise you're gonna carry that baggage throughout your entire life. And
yeah,
it's
you
gonna
will.
keep playing out. The same situations are gonna keep playing out over and over and over again until you become aware of those things that happen and slowly let go of those past programs that were ingrained into your subconscious.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of those programs that we're not aware of because we just been in, like you said, we've been in that world as part of our life. That's how generations pass on their moral beliefs or their guidelines or their structure of life, right? That's how prejudices get passed down, and that's how love gets passed down. So it's really on the emphasis, but to get to a point where you're feeling a change, and we're talking about awakening indicators, right? Because that's what the whole series is about, and this is the reason why we bring it to play. You go through your whole life and all of a sudden you realize, "Hey, this is not how I am now. This is not who I want to be anymore, but this is something I learned that was solid. This is, so now you have to understand, you have to go back to the young child. You got to go back and find the inner child to help you and identify and change all that. It's a matter of perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to add, 'cause whenever you are a new soul and you're first brought into this world, you you were like tied with like the higher dimensions and whatnot. Like you're able to like see things maybe we can't see and whatnot. And because the world's programming really hasn't got to you. That's like when you're in your infancy stage and like your
Exactly.
pineal gland's probably way more active, and that's why kids have imaginary friends, and that's why they do all this imaginary stuff is because they can actually see it and do it, and like that's awesome for them. Um, and then you lose that sense of touch, or you lose that touch of sense with yourself and with higher realms and all of that because you're put into these programs that life is difficult. You must work, 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 and then die. It doesn't have to be like that. Returning to your inner child and feeling those harmonious, like loving states and blissful emotions and whatnot. It's extremely, extremely, extremely important because every single person that is viewing this has had a childhood at once, whether it was a good or bad childhood. If you had a traumatic childhood, you should go back and heal that, and become a new you. Essentially, you got to heal that trauma. But if you had a good childhood, it's good to go back and relive those emotions, as you can always hold a space for that within yourself.
Yeah, you touched on something that's important for people to try and understand, that a lot of people who are having awakening have some kind of memory or recall when they were a child, that they had some kind of skill. Or I wish Stephanie was here tonight because I hope she doesn't mind me telling a story with her not being here, but she's told it in the public before that when she was a child, she had, skills, empathic skills, telepathic skills, that kind of thing. But because of the environment that she was in, that was all suppressed. It was all looked as being silly. And like you said, Jake, the young kids have imaginary friends. It's like there are things out there that I have the sensitivity to see, but a lifelong of programming and people telling you that you're not supposed to see that, or that's not part of our world anymore, that suppresses that energy all the way. So yeah, another reason, right, to go back.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. It's just the programming of the world coming into you essentially. Um, because yeah, like the fluoride in the water and the foods you eat and all that, it's lowering your natural intuitive like abilities essentially. In Stephanie's case, she was having all these crazy psychic abilities or whatnot. And then I'm sure as she got a little bit older, she came down the line of the programming, and then she had her spiritual awakening, and that kind of brought her back forth to.
Yeah, that's how she explains it. Yeah.
Yeah, that awakening, it certainly brings you back to your inner child, and it makes you aware, like, oh shit, like a lot of what happened when I was a child is still playing out even now. Like for example, like insecurity or yeah, especially insecurity. A lot of insecurity can be traced back all the way back to the back when you were a kid, and maybe you were told when you were a kid, like, oh, I'm not like you, oh, like you're not smart, you're not smart enough to do this, or something like that, or like some kids are bullying you on the playground, like whenever you're in elementary school, telling you, like, calling you dumb and stuff like that. And so you go about life thinking that, like, that you're not as smart as every other individual, and that and it can limit your potential, because you could be extremely smart in something like that, and so in some other aspect, like you weren't conventionally smart, like through the school system, but you could be an absolute genius, but that was suppressed by your peers and such. And it can prohibit your potential if those insecurities aren't healed and brought to the surface.
Said, if you aren't able to be conscious of your now thoughts and emotions, and you can correlate between like your younger child self and now. Many people still have those negative emotions from when they were a child, and it's like they'll like you said, insecurity. Say I don't know, there was a family without a father and whatnot. I'm sure there has to be some type of emotional damage or whatnot, because you don't have that masculine force or energy in your house to provide that um, whatever you're seeking to find. That maybe that now maybe you're left feeling unfulfilled in life because you haven't had a father. Maybe once you realize that and you heal from that, you now view things from a different perspective of, oh, why did my dad leave me, or why would they do this to, you know what, I'm going to be a good father one day because I've healed myself, and I'm not going to do the same thing for my child that was done for me.
Yeah, even more micro than that, even a parent telling a child, you can't do that, or you're not good enough for this, or that's for them,
Devastating
not
for
for
them.
you. There's, and over the generations, that may change, but in that time of the passing of that information, it's definitely locked in, because you take in part, say we're talking about a parent or a mentor or something like that, tells you that you have this ability or you don't have this ability. You're more likely to believe that and trust that, and you're more likely to have that superpower, to have the faith in yourself, right, and to go forward with that. But if someone to tell you that you don't have that ability, or you can't be that limitation from that sibling or that parent or that mentor is going to be drilled right into you, subconsciously or not. It's going to be there, and like we talked about before, until you address that, you're going to carry that with you. Just like we're talking about carrying personality traits. Personality traits come from more than likely your parents, right? Or they could say your environment. So at a young age, when you're so vulnerable, those lessons that you learn, good or bad, they have to be attended to. They have to be, when you go through a spiritual awakening, they're going to come to you anyways. So just be aware that they're going to happen. And when they do happen, try not to fight it so much. Try to have some little acceptance that this is a path that you need to go to, because if you don't, You just go through this repeating cycle, and you're going to have to learn that lesson again and again. It could be an unbearing force sometimes. Yeah.
You mentioned something like a really good point about like conditioning of like conditioning of a child. So I recently learned about like the growth mindset essentially. And so like whenever you tell a child, like, oh, you're really smart, like you're really smart. If they were to go to class and not perform as well, like as they're like if they were to get like a bad grade on a test, that's like emotionally damaging to them because they're not living up to their expectation of, oh, I identify as smart. I have to be smart. I have to get good. I have to know what I'm doing. Like a growth mindset is you want to get better. Oh, I got a bad grade. You know, I'm going to study more. I'm going to continue to put me in a place where I'm able to achieve and excel. But if you tell a kid, oh, you're bad, you're not good enough or whatnot, they're most likely going to believe that as well. And can have the same effect on them as it would if you were to tell them this, that they were smart or stupid. If someone told me I was stupid at a young age, I, I probably would believe them and I wouldn't have that growth mindset to change that and become a brighter and smarter person. It's all about the way in which you tell them, essentially.
Words are spells. That's why they call it spelling. And we talked about it before with our bodies being so much of water and the positive attributes of positive energies versus negative energies, right? But here's the thing. How do you know has like your guys' age or even my age, how do you know that something happened to you in your childhood that's negatively affecting you? How do you know that you have maybe this block of growth, block of forward movement, block of your heart chakra, something that you picked up with a child? How do you figure that out?
So you can start.
Yeah, I can start. Definitely one of the main places you can look is whenever like emotional triggers as well, those things that trigger that emotion, that harsh, like that rash emotion, like that wouldn't normally trigger like so just some random person, like it wouldn't just normally but it does trigger you. It hits you in that spot. And say maybe someone says something or someone says something to you and you end up getting super anxious about it, and like a certain situation pops up and you end up getting super anxious about it, or you instantly get mad, like just rashly get mad, like it just out of nowhere. That's probably that's the first place you can look, like, okay, why am I experiencing that emotion? Where's that coming from?
That's good.
Then down the
Yeah,
rabbit hole you go.
that's a good sign. Yeah. Go ahead, Jake.
I think it's all about like reflection. Like, I mean, it's like literally the same thing that you said. Like, you have to reflect on your childhood, and you really need to understand, like, are my thoughts from my childhood affecting me now, or my um, emotional damages from my childhood, is that still affecting me now? So reflection and looking back amongst your childhood and really trying to pinpoint and see and find your triggers. Like if something like maybe like if I were to just say like we'll use the fatherless house for example. Um, so if I didn't have a father and then I go outside and I see some dad playing with his son, you know, maybe that makes I'm not going to be happy for them. I'm going to probably feel sad. I'm like, where's my dad to throw baseball with or football or whatever it is, you know. You kind of look at things with a different perception too. Um, really. Yeah.
Yeah, those are definitely both great indicators, right? You feel emotional attention to something that's happening around you. Now, here's the key. Do you have the mindfulness to understand that the guy that cut you off in the road, or the girl that gave you a wrong look, or the kid playing with the dad in the park made you feel different, made your heart beat a little bit different? Do you understand where's that's coming from, right? So once you understand that there's a trigger, we'll just call it a trigger, a moment of reflection, right? Then is the time to try and search back to when that actually was embedded into you. What was the cause effect. What was the reason or the event in most cases that makes this trigger with you? Does that make sense? So first it starts with being mindful, being awareful of how you're feeling, going through your daily day. Someone says something to you and you just have that itch to it, right? That's being aware. Then to be mindful of, why is it that I have this feeling? What is making me react in this way? Was it something in my past that happened to it, or is it just this person just being, reactionary? I'm just being reactionary. So taking yourself back, and then a lot of times I would suggest meditation, right? Nice, good grounding, a good meditation with that intent in mind, right? To follow that question in your mind, I think you're going to find your answers. I really do. I think that's an easy way to strike it.
Well said. So I've been listening to the Untethered Soul audiobook, and great. Oh, it's fantastic book so far. And there's this one key part that stood out to me today whenever I was listening to it. And it went along something along the lines where we whenever an event like that, like a trigger event happens, where it initially happens like that, we don't sometimes we don't take the time, we don't take the energy to process that event. And it gets we store it into our heart, and we close it off instead of opening it up and allowing ourselves to feel it, to feel that emotion, and to feel that event, and to process everything that happened within that event. And we like to close it off, and if we close it off instead of feeling it and letting it go and pass through us, we're holding that emotion, that negative emotion, onto our being instead of confronting it. And so if we're holding that emotion onto us, holding that emotion on, we're going to continue to act out and project that outwards into the world, and we'll keep encountering situations that triggers that emotion as well.
No, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, for me here, I'll share a little personal experience. So maybe an example would give someone an understanding. When I was a child, my parents would, when I was emotionally stressed or I was, crying, let's say, my parents would always give me the threat that if I didn't stop crying, they would give me something to cry about, right? Either like a insinuated threat of violence or an insinuated threat of punishment, kind of that kind of thing. If you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about, right? So you just try to suck it in and stop crying, and sometimes it wouldn't even help, and then it would get even more agitated, and you would get the threat again, and just so to this day, I still have problems with crying. It's not that I have problems with it. I cry, but like on an emotional, I'll cry at a movie, right? I'll cry for a movie. And I'm a big mush when it comes to movies. But when it comes like to real life and something happening to me in my personal life that you think would affect, an individual, that you can be someone as sensitive as myself, can be open enough to just let it out, man, it never hits me. And I know for a fact that comes back from that programming when I was a young man, right? So to face that, to trying to turn that around, like I said, have the awareness of it, right? And then to be mindful of where it comes from. So once you're mindful of where it comes from, then it's to change the pattern. Then it's to let yourself, like you're saying, Sonny, just allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing yourself to have this young energy, this young flow of innocence back again. I think that's a good place to correct.
And it could be tough to fall into that place of vulnerability and just allow ourselves to feel that.
It's so hard because we're taught, especially as all right, we're all three men here. We're always taught to, to just keep it inside.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about y'all, but I mean, I come from a different generation. We were taught to just keep all that emotion inside, right? I wish we had a female perspective here to tell us, but I'm sure it would be something similar to that. Don't show your emotions. Don't know that you're not allowed to be a Nancy or that kind of. I don't know if that term's correct to use, but in my family, you weren't allowed to show too much emotion, especially sadness or weakness or fear. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
You
that's
know, it's
completely,
like,
yeah, that's completely, I completely resonate with that. For men, as being a male, um, there's not too many times where if you're feeling like emotional, there's not too many times where like you're able to just go out and just express all your emotions. I feel like unless you have like a really close friend who's very trustworthy and like very open with you, I feel like the majority of the times, like men in general, just do not express and talk about their emotions. They just keep it bottled up, and they keep it bottled up until
uh,
something triggers them, and then boom, and the next thing you know, they're blowing steam
Yeah,
out.
it's seen as a weakness to
Yeah,
yeah.
it really, yeah, it is
express those
absolutely.
emotions.
And it's funny because that's exactly the opposite of being healthy with yourself. That's, you know, that's
Yeah.
exactly the opposite. But that's a part of society and many cultures,
Mhm.
strongly ours, but many cultures that are like that. It's embarrassing. It's not, you know, we should evolve, be able to evolve past that.
Yeah.
We slowly are. We slowly
Yeah.
are, and like the fact that we're having this conversation about this openly like this is
True
it's a
that.
good, it's a fantastic sign, and
True
we're
that.
slowly healing that divine masculine, healing
So
that.
it's not it's, you know, you guys are both still teenagers, and it's not hard. Sonny, you just had a birthday, didn't you?
I did.
Namaste, mother. Big
Thank
one
you, thank
nine
you.
now, huh? Yeah,
One
good for
nine,
you.
eh?
Good for you, brother. You know, it's not too hard to imagine you two guys being out in public and just doing something childish or do something silly,
Mhm.
because you're young men, and society would look at that as, you know, just energy, right? Like I wouldn't expect, I would not be surprised to see 18-year-olds at a skate park or at an amusement park, or, you know, doing something like that, right? Riding bikes. But as a man of my age, right, in his 50s, you know, doing something silly or doing something childish, it can be looked at, you know, can be shunned on by society or by people who find themselves to be adults. And, you know, there are times to be adults, and I'm speaking more to people, I guess, that are, you know, your age, but still your age or older. There's times also, you know, to just be a kid, just be silly, do something fun, do something that you would do as a child. Look, I'm blessed with a very fun and energetic wife, and she is like a child all the time. She likes to play in puddles, and she likes to play with things, and she looks at life just walking through the woods very innocent and different than, you know, most people's serious thought would have, you know. And it's a different energy in the house. Sonny, you've met Rebecca, you know how she
Mhm.
is, and it's always just,
Yeah.
it's a good, fun, funny energy, and it puts a lot of smiles on your face. And I think a lot more people, if they found themselves secure enough in themselves to just, you know, allow themselves to be there, you know, just doing random acts of childish or childlike things can be a really lift in your day. I wish Sarah was here, our good friend from Flow Network. She would tell you about Dance O'Clock. This girl's been doing it for years, right? Just out of nowhere,
What's it called?
dancing. That doesn't have to be music on, just getting it out,
I
you know.
love it.
I could get it.
We're always programmed and taught to, you know, don't goof around, you know, don't slack off, don't goof off essentially. But it's like when you goof off and you're just enjoying, you're just simply enjoying existing. Like it's like just your existence alone. Like you just feel so alive. Like whether it's listening to music, putting dance on, or talking to that special someone, you know, it really lights your soul up, and it really brings you
Oh,
back
yeah.
to that inner harmony and inner child and that loving state. Essentially,
You're
really,
very
really
right.
beautiful.
You're very right. You know, I don't know too many of our viewers know, you guys know, I'm a caretaker at a camp, a special needs camp. And in the summertime, when the kids are here, just being around their energy as they're, playing kickball or doing crafts or just, just being at camp, being around that energy, like you're saying, Jack, it just lifts up your
Yeah.
whole,
Oh,
frequency,
exactly.
and it just lightens up your
Absolutely.
whole day.
Yeah.
Um, I remember one time we let the kids go down to the creek and play during the middle of the summer. It's nice to get a little cool off, and there was a little slide that came off the bank, and it's just a mudslide, and the kids loved it. Right, they would go climb the stairs to get on the bank, and it's just a little slide, and it would drop you into the water. Whee! Great for the kids. And the kids were like, they were just, I went down there one day just to kind of check on them, see what it was all about, and they were rooting for me. Caretaker, do it, do it, do it. I was like, no, no, no. Well, they convinced me to do it, and I did it just because. And when I hit the water, I didn't even go over my shoulders, but when I did it, everyone had a good time and a smile. And I tell you, like Jake was saying, my whole day was just lifted, and I was all light, and I was feeling good
Yeah.
about
Having a good
things.
time. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find myself when I'm goofing off or in that like just goofy states or whatever, enjoying, having a good time. I feel like those are like the best moments of my life. Like just being me, just goofy. Like you're supposed to like normal is weird. Like be weird. So you be weird is normal. Normal is
Weird
not
is
weird.
weird is normal. I
Yeah,
like that.
weird is normal. Yeah, exactly. You're weird, you're normal to me.
It'll add that spice to your life.
Yeah, it
Just
really your
goofing
personality
around.
as well. If you like if Sonny, if you're just this boring, monotonous guy, like I probably wouldn't want to be your friend. Like you're just boring. But if you're just like if you're always if you're just like such a
I wouldn't
happy
want to be my friend either, man.
yeah, if you're just a happy, genuine person and like you're really exciting and whatnot, like that's who I want to be friends with. I want to gravitate towards that type of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It makes it because it brings out that inner child in others as well.
It brings up that emotion in yourself.
Yes.
yeah, it's essentially, I think what we're saying, it's important to remember that inner child. It's important to heal that inner child, right? It's important to
Absolutely.
stop and reflect back on that inner child. There's so many things back, and that innocence and that love, and like we are talking about before, that frequency, right? And like Sonny was saying, that heart chakra, right? That bounded love right there. It's so strong, and it needs to be nurtured, and you need to go back there and re-experience it. And like we said before, there's so many things that happen when you're a child that if you don't heal that inner child and you don't acknowledge it, you're just going to be carrying it on, folks. You're just going to be carrying it with you longer and longer. The sooner you get to address it, the sooner that your awakening is going to be clear, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to go through. You can go through awakening and still have childhood traumas and childhood burdens and childhood programmings. Does that mean that you're done with your awakening? No, quite certain. You're going to have to go back and revisit it. Believe me. You just went through, a little pitch to just give me an acknowledgement of what there was. But like Tim would say, it's the cycle, it's the circle. You gotta go through the muck to expand, to be able to grow higher. So you have to go back and you have to reflect on those times, or when, like we talked about earlier, Sonny mentioned, you get a trigger and you realize something's upsetting you. Be mindful to figure out where that is, where it's coming from, because it's very possible to heal that, and then that healing just expands your spirituality and your consciousness. That's what it's all about.
I think like depression, I don't
Move a little bit closer to the computer, Jake.
know.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so depression, I feel like everyone who's spiritually awoken has gone through like a serious depression at one point in their life, whether it be like however long it was, they've gone through some sort of depression where they've really just felt their chemical, and there was like a chemical imbalance in their brain where they really just didn't feel like themselves and just kind of always in a sad state. I know me personally, I don't know about you two, but it seems like there's this correlation with depression and being spiritually awoken. So I like to have the analogy of like the bow and arrow. So like if this is you pull back, you're getting like depressed, then it just launches you. Next thing you know, you're just not every single person, but for me, I was launched into even like a further state of consciousness and like a further understanding of being happy. Like whenever you're not happy unless you've experienced what sad is, because without sadness, I feel like there is no happiness, because you have to have like the yin and yang. The Yeah, essentially, yeah, it's like the yin and yang. There's opposites to everything.
Hmm. Well, the depression, it's just a very simple form. It's just kind of get off topic, but depression and anxiety. Depression is always thinking about the past.
Mhm.
Anxiety is always thinking about the future.
Mhm.
So it's your correlation, Jake, I think is kind of correct. Fundamentally going back, thinking about the past, worrying about that, correcting the childhood traumas or what have not. That would definitely be something that would happen in the past, right? And to have mindfulness to gain your spiritual awakening or go through your spiritual awakening, sure, it's going to launch you right through that,
Yep.
right? But like we mentioned before, without healing that behind you, right, you're just going to come back. You're going to be back there eventually, or you're bound to flight. The arrow's bound to flight is limited to what you're willing to release.
If you don't hear your inner child, then you're just going to be brought back to square one. You're just going to keep restarting over and over.
Absolutely.
Are there any last words before we begin to get into our little meditation? Any last thoughts?
I just go back to just, let yourself go, guys. Take yourself back there often. You were a beautiful individual, and that beautiful individual is still inside you. Let them go. Remember they're there.
Let them run free.
That's
Let
it.
that inner child run free. Do those activities that nurture your inner child, whether that be randomly dancing or just allowing that to free flow, opening that heart center, allowing that inner child to run free. Being goofy, goofing around a little bit here and there.
Speaking of which, hold on.
Question
All
to
right,
all the viewers is, if you were in that loving state now, why wouldn't you
go.
want to return?
Add the little bunny rabbit.
I'm gonna be goofy right now.
Ah.
Jake, can you do the bunnies? Okay. Yeah, let's put down a really strong medi. I'm ready for it.
Alrighty.
Turn the bunny ears off.
Yeah, if you guys could just mute your mics real quick as well. Thank you. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Let's get right into it. So start by getting relaxed, get into that relaxed state, move your shoulders around a little bit. Maybe crack the neck a little bit. Relax those eyebrows. Burn some sage. Allow yourself to loosen up. Loosen that forehead up. And enter into relaxed state. We're going to start by opening up that heart center. Start by imagining your heart beginning to open up. Try visualizing that. Visualize a clear channel going through all the way from the top of your head, down through your whole body and through your heart, down through your legs, and into the earth. And move your awareness into your heart. and feel all the pure bliss, ecstasy, and love that's contained within your heart. Connect with the child that lies within your heart. Imagine your younger self running around, playing on the playground, playing in the mud, with the biggest smile on its face, laughing, playing. Remember that that child is still you, still a part of you. Imagine running up to this child version of you, and embracing with your child self, giving him or her a deep hug, nice big hug, embracing, and feel the love that's emanating of both your beings connecting with each other. Just sit here for a moment or two. Now allow this child version of yourself to dump all fears, all traumas that have been inflicted upon it. And allow your adult self to carry these traumas and to heal them. All the insecurities, fears. Allow yourself to feel them. And let them go into the earth, traveling down from your heart and into Mother Gaia. Now give the inner child one last hug. Visualize it. Know that you can return to that inner child at any time. Place of goofiness, playfulness, curiosity, sensitivity. It's always with you. All you have to do to connect with it is return back to your heart. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, move your body around a little bit. turn back the conscious awareness of this body.
Very nice.
Bang, and thank you for coming to the New Earth Project live show. If you're still here to the end, thank you for staying all the way through. Much appreciated and much love. And if you haven't checked us out and our other communities on our Telegram, Discord communities, go check that out down in the description down below. And we will see you next Wednesday.
The podcast, brother.
Oh, yeah. Next episode of the Come As You Are podcast. Our very
Tomorrow.
own Studio Rome is interviewing pretty consistent guest on our live show, Sarah DiFlo or Sarah DiFelice over at Flow Network.
Yep,
So
yep.
be sure to check that out. It comes out tomorrow at what time is it? Is it 2:22? Yep, 2:22 p.m. Eastern time. Hope to see you there, and peace. Okay, how do we turn this off? Okay, there we go. End stream.